Welcome to the Missouri Leadership Development System On-Demand Principal Leadership Series. I'm Mike Rutherford, and I'm happy to be your host and guide for this on-demand series. The MLDS, Missouri Leadership Development System, is a comprehensive set of professional learning experiences designed by and for Missouri school leaders. This on-demand series is intended to preview, complement, and introduce a few of the nearly 100 leadership lessons that are contained in the Missouri Leadership Development System curriculum. Each episode of our on-demand series will have three components: a short video where I attempt to explain the leadership concept, a PDF file of written materials that will support each lesson, and a podcast so that you can engage with each leadership lesson in a mobile fashion should you decide to do that. We hope you'll find this on-demand series not only convenient and accessible, but also powerful and productive. Information on how you can engage in the full spectrum of MLDS leadership learning can be found at dese.mo.gov. There's also a complete listing of all of the MLDS specialists for your region in the PDF file that accompanies each episode. Thank you for participating. Welcome to the MLDS On-Demand Principal Leadership Series. This is episode 6, Dealing with Dilemmas. Now, a dilemma is similar to a problem. Dilemmas look like problems. Dilemmas are often mistaken for problems. And let's face it, school administrators are prolific problem solvers. One of the things we can do to be even more effective and more valuable to the schools that we serve is be good at differentiating between when we're dealing with a problem and when we're dealing with a particularly sticky problem called a dilemma. Let's do some definitions. So from Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, let's look at problem and dilemma and notice a few differences. Here's the definition of problem. From the Greek, problema, a problem is an obstacle. A problem is a question or matter involving doubt, uncertainty, or difficulty. Here are some synonyms for a problem. A complication, trouble, dispute, difficulty, an issue, right? That's what a problem is. Now let's compare that to the definition of a dilemma. Dilemma, also from the Greek, di meaning two or double, lemma meaning propositions. So a dilemma, rather than being a straightforward proposition, is always a decision between two competing aspects of the dilemma. Definitions: a difficult or persistent problem, a situation involving a difficult or an unpleasant choice, a predicament that defies solution. Here are some synonyms for dilemma: a bind, an impasse, a catch-22, a pickle, a jam, a quandary. Get the idea? They're in the same family. Certainly problems and dilemmas run with one another. But one of the skills that will help us to be more effective is if we can differentiate between when we're facing a problem, which offers a pretty straightforward solution, and when we're facing a dilemma that tends to want to masquerade like a problem, but does not have a straightforward solution. Here are 6 principles for dealing with dilemmas, helping us to differentiate and helping us to be even more effective. Principle number 1, resist the quick fix. Don't jump in and try to solve a dilemma right away. A dilemma is typically not solved with our first idea. A dilemma hopes you'll rush to a solution. When we rush to easy, simple solutions too quickly in the face of a dilemma, what we often do is create unintended consequences. So take your time, resist the quick fix. Principle number 2, resist the urge to blame people. When something goes wrong in a dilemma, it's easier to say, well, if I replaced this person with this person, or it's Henry's fault, or it's Sarah's fault. Now, it may very well be that we are looking at a personnel problem, but it's more likely that it's a systemic organizational problem, and any person that was in that position would probably have the same difficulties. So principle number 2 is resists the temptation to think it's a person's fault. It's likely a systemic dilemma. Principle number 3, resist an emotional response. Now, dilemmas are perplexing. In fact, they're downright infuriating. And so it's easy to get worked up when we're in the presence of a dilemma. A dilemma hopes we'll get worked up and make an emotional response to it. When we're emotional, we're not in contact with the most rational, with the higher level thinking capacities of our brain. So beware getting emotionally involved in a dilemma. Principle number 4, beware of consensus and compromise and agreement in the presence of a dilemma. A dilemma is not impressed by how many people agree with your solution. Dilemmas are systemic. Dilemmas are organizational. They are not solved simply because I as a leader or you as a leader have 3 or 4 other smart people with us and we've all decided this is a really good approach. The Space Shuttle Challenger disaster is a prime example, a tragic example of where around a table, some of the smartest people on Earth reached consensus that it was indeed not too cold to launch the Space Shuttle Challenger on that frosty morning. And it turned out that was a tragic decision. A dilemma is not impressed by consensus or by agreement. Principle number 5, get an education. It's very unlikely, no matter how smart you are, that you have exactly the knowledge base and the skill sets necessary to solve every dilemma that comes your way. Einstein is credited with the famous quote that problems can never be solved at the same level of thinking at which they were created. And this is true of problems, and it's doubly true of dilemmas. You'll probably have to take some time, you'll ask some other people, you'll do some study, you'll read up on this. One of the principles of being more successful with dilemmas is going into it with a bit of humility and getting some education. And principle number 6 for dealing with dilemmas is design solutions for improvement, not necessarily for perfection. Dilemmas are too complex to be perfectly solved. We should go for, can we get an 80% solution or a 70% solution? Don't mistake perfection for excellence. Most dilemmas will never be completely solved. What we want to do with a dilemma is improve the situation if we can. When I was a middle school principal, I had a perpetually late bus 57. Henry was the bus driver. I went onto the bus one day and I said, Henry, your bus has been late for 7 days in a row. We've got to solve this. And he goes, I know, Mike. He goes, I'm doing my best. I'm picking them up quickly. It's just hard for me to get everyone here on time. And I said, Henry, these kids deserve, every minute of education we can give them. I thought I had sufficiently motivated Henry, and I sent him off confident that he would not be late again. A couple of days later, one of the assistant principals came in and said, Mike, I got a problem with Henry, the driver of bus 57. And I said, you mean he's late again after I gave him that motivational talk? And the AP at the school said, no, he's been on time every day since you talked to him. But now he's not bringing all the students. I was infuriated. I went out and talked to Henry. I said, Henry, what's going on? And I'll never forget, he was so calm. He explained it to me. He goes, Mike, I don't know. There's something about my bus route. I pick them up as early as I can. I don't waste any time. I take a few shortcuts, but it's awfully hard for me to get everyone on the bus and all of them to school on time. I think you're going to have to pick. I think you're going to have to tell me, do you want the bus here on time or do you want everyone on the bus? Because I can really do either one of those. I just can't do both. You know what? It turned out that the computer that drew Henry's bus route didn't take into consideration a lot of the variables that were true. There were some mismarked one-way streets and the traffic wasn't factored in. The truth is that a professional race car driver could not have driven bus 57 around that route, picked up every child, and had them at school on time. It was not a person, right? Didn't do any good to get upset with Henry. What did I do as a school administrator? I ran into a dilemma and I treated it like a problem. One of the One of the great things, I think, about dilemmas and being aware of them is that when you find yourself confronted with these sticky problems that are in fact not problems, they're dilemmas, congratulations. That's actually a sign that you have your school on a pretty steep improvement trajectory. Dilemmas are the result of shaping up the organization, of making things happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So if you're improving, if you're innovating and you're creating in your school, guess what one of the proofs of that will be? You're going to run into more dilemmas. So congratulations on and good luck in your quest to deal effectively with dilemmas. Thanks for participating.